Welcome to The Intentional Way, where literally every moment is a step towards purposeful living. I'm Bryan Hatch, here to explore the power of intention with you. Learn from our guests who embody intentionality. I'm glad you're here with me. Let's get started. Welcome to another episode of The Intentional Way. I'm your host, Bryan Hatch. Today's episode is going to be magical as far as I am concerned, and I'm excited to introduce you to our guest. Today we have someone who I know on a business level first, and then a personal level, and a few other levels there, if you will. And I really appreciate who he is. Our guest today has been a leader of multiple companies, is CEO currently, co-founder of CustomerHub. He is Kyle Leavitt, and welcome to the show today.
Thank you for having me, Bryan. I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah, stoked to have you here. I always like to open up the episode with something interesting, and I figured today I'm going to go a little different.
Okay.
Given this, just who you are and what you do. You've been involved in tech for a long time, software.
Yep.
What do you see this year? What do you see that's happening in the atmosphere that we should keep an eye on?
Oh, man. I mean, this is cliche, but AI is changing the world, man. We're sitting right in the middle of it. We're seeing it in our own business. Mm-hmm. I'm seeing it in my personal life. I use AI every day in my business. I use AI every day in my personal life. I use AI to help me generate bedtime stories for my kids. I use AI for a lot of things, and I think people are going to be surprised in 2 years or 3 years from now how much AI is just a regular part of their lives and they don't even think about it. So I think 2025 is the year where the holdouts on AI kind of are like, okay, we got to get into the AI game. We got to figure out how we can weave AI into our offerings, into our services, into our support, into our businesses and lives. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind.
Where do you see, you said personally and professionally, give us an example of each one of those. I'm interested to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just enhances. That's the way I look at AI right now. I mean, there's certainly pieces and industries and roles that AI will play that are, I think, more comprehensive and will replace. But I look at it opportunistically, and I look at it as an enhancement. So in our business, for example, we've, in the past year, gone from a model in our customer success where we were paying qualified people to help our customers be available whenever they needed help. And they were doing a great job, but we've cut our costs by 50%, and we're providing better support to our customers today by utilizing AI. AI is our first interaction that our customers have when they need help. And AI is deflecting, which is both a combination of resolutions as well as unverified resolutions, where people ask a question and then they get an answer back from AI, and they don't say that gave me what I needed, but they don't reply anymore. So there's an assumption there that they've been helped and gotten what they need. But our AI is handling 75% of all inbound requests that never get to a person, and our customers are totally satisfied and happy with it. In fact, our customer satisfaction has gone up over the time frame that we've began utilizing AI for that. So, AI is there 24/7, 365, never takes a day off. It's knowledge base. It knows everything that we have documented. Looks at all of the history of all conversations we've ever had with any customer. I mean, I jump in and look at the responses sometimes, and I'm like, dang, man, AI's better than that answered better than I would have answered. So that's a business one. Obviously a very specific use case for our business, but we're utilizing it across our product development, pair programming. We're utilizing it to help us with our marketing. I have an AI team. So I have an AI marketing assistant, an AI legal assistant, an AI HR assistant, an AI documentation specialist. I don't know, 7 or 8 different AI GPTs that have been trained up in certain ways and have certain knowledge bases. And I interact with them almost like members of the team in many ways. So it's really enhanced how we operate and made us a lot more efficient and a lot more competitive. Like we're punching above our weight, I think, for the size of company we are in terms of the number of people. But we haven't laid anyone off. Our people are just focused on different things. So instead of having someone in the queues responding to customers, they're looking at our knowledge base and saying what's missing, and looking at conversations with customers that haven't been answered and filling out our knowledge base. They're reaching out to customers that are going through a trial of our software and proactively helping them and finding what they need. And so it's just making us better. And I'm a huge fan of using AI.
I think that's interesting that we haven't even really delved into the topic of intention.
Yeah.
But it's allowing your people to be intentional about their time.
People to be intentional. Yeah.
That's fascinating to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and personally, it just makes life easy. I mean,
you said bedtime stories, but what else?
Yeah. I mean, I'm using it right now to help me make some decisions about our property that we're going to be moving shortly. My wife uses it and I help her use it with some of the lacrosse stuff she's been involved in. I mean, in many ways, I'm just using it to search and it's replacing Google in my life personally. So I find that I get better, more reliable, targeted, like exactly what I need in terms of response versus having to go hit a search engine and then having to sift through and find the right piece of information that I'm looking for. So it's just useful. And yeah, I'm on my GPT app multiple times a day just in my personal life, asking it questions about things that I want to learn about or want information on or need help with, writing a letter, whatever, composing something. So yeah, it's all over the place in my life right now.
Yeah. So there you have it. AI is definitely part of the conversations. I feel like you can't go very far anymore and not hear about it or talk about it, regardless if you're in industries that we are. It's all over the place. I've heard people in religious context use it to help create manuals and things that
I do that all the time. I teach a Sunday school class and I use AI almost every week when I'm preparing my lessons, and every other week, I guess. I've used it to create a Jeopardy style scriptural based game based on the lesson materials. Like it's just 3 minutes and I'm like, okay, here we go. Like I'm got an awesome activity for the class.
And not to go too far on this, but it's a question that I think is just on the brink of why not ask it, is where does AI take over original thought? Like being creative ourselves and using those synapses in our brain and using our own creativity to solve problems instead of have a problem solved quickly. What are your thoughts on that? And I don't want to necessarily go too deep on that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I don't know. I sort of think about it like real diamonds versus manufactured diamonds. Like, why do we value real diamonds more than we value manufactured diamonds? The manufactured diamonds are technically more precise and more perfect. They're better. They're more perfect diamonds, but we place a higher value on the real diamonds. And I think that's how we will become to see AI, if we don't already, is like AI might be able to do a job. A robot might be able to do a job better, produce an art piece, a musical piece, provide a service, give an answer, or know something in a better way, higher quality way, maybe a more efficient way. But I think there's something intrinsic about people and our souls and who we are that is intrinsically valuable that AI will never be able to replace. And I think we will begin to place a premium on the interactions and experiences that we have with real people and real organic thought. So AI, self-awareness, like you hear, what's the difference, all this stuff. It gets blurry. The line gets blurry there when you really get down into it. But at the end of the day, I believe that people are never going to be replaced in terms of the authentic souls that we are. And I think that's where we're going to place our value.
Yeah. And specifically is more like around people having their own creative thoughts as opposed to getting answers. The other things, that's interesting. But yeah, fascinating. So thanks for starting it off
Yeah,
with something a little outside of the box
definitely
for us.
outside the box.
You're like, I came to talk about intention, Bryan.
No, man, I'm just here to chat. I love it.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, I feel like you're a very articulate guy. That's how I've experienced you. And I'm interested to know, because I'm genuinely interested to know, how would you define intention?
Oh, there's a lot in there. I think for me, it's pretty simple. It's just having a clear plan and knowing where you're going, standing firm in what you believe, what you're trying to do, what you're up to, and being able to act independently of all of the noise, pressures, inertia that might be pushing you naturally in another direction. So if you're floating down a river and the river's taking you a certain place without intention, you're just going to go down the river wherever the tide pulls you. And I think the same thing happens in life. There is a tide. There's a tide in life. There's a tide in our society, in the world, and it changes. The direction of the tide changes. The direction of the wind blows differently. But when you have intention, you can go wherever you want to go. And that may be a very different destination than where the tide's taking you. So that's how I think about it.
Yeah. So I actually really love, I've never heard quite that description. I really love how you said it's being independent of all of, and I'm going to butcher what you actually said, but maybe the chaos or inertia, that like everything else that's going on around you. Can you give us an example of how you've done that somewhere, professionally, personally, where it's like you've acted independent of all the stuff that maybe says you should have acted a different way?
Yeah. I hope I can come up with a specific example. I feel like this plays out on a daily basis, but there's a lot of things going on in your personal and professional life every day. So, for example, like every day before I start my day, and I hope that most people do this, but if you don't, I would invite you to, for anyone who shows up to work every day and has a desire to move things forward in a positive direction, is to just take time at the beginning of your day. And it feels like a sacrifice because like the natural instinct for me is to dive right into my email box, go through my new emails and like look in the Slack channel and see what's going on and engage with people. And the days that I've done that, I've missed out on an opportunity. And now it's like 3 p.m. and I'm like, wait, like I didn't move these important big rocks forward in my day today. And you can literally waste months and years doing all the things that need to be done. The to-do list and the list of demands and requests are never ending. It's never going to stop. You're never going to get it all done. So for me, on a daily basis, it's kind of stepping back up at the 30,000 foot view and identifying and refocusing on the big rocks that are the most important things that I hold dear and that I want to accomplish in my life. And then organizing my day, my daily tasks and routine around those things and letting the rest, delete, defer, or having someone else do it. And sometimes letting it sit. But that's kind of how I try to organize my day every day. And that's a value that we're attempting to bake into our company as a core value, is we show up with daily intention, with intention every day, meaning don't start a work day unless you're clear on what your intention for that day is and what the most important 2 or 3 things are that you need to accomplish to be performing and moving the things forward that are important.
Hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this episode, please subscribe, follow, and download our episode. Your support allows us to bring more intentional guests just like this, and it means the world to us. Now, let's get back to the episode. Okay, what's to be said about the person that has intentions? I think that a lot of people define them as goals, and that's I'm specifically saying intentions. Goals are still good,
Yeah.
but that people kind of show up their day with, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, and this is how I'm going to do this. And
Yeah.
they have those.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it's 5 or 6 or whenever they go home and they're like, I didn't do any of them.
Yeah.
Because there's some people in roles, I've been there myself, and I've seen there are people where it's like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then someone walks in my office and they need my help. And there's no one else in the company that's supposed to help them or whatever. And maybe, you can see where I'm headed in some ways, but what do you say to that person?
Yeah. What's the difference between goals and intentions? Or what do you do in that situation?
Yeah. How do you say, I have these intentions? Some people say, but I have these things I'm going to do. And then by the end of the day, they're not accomplished.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, right? It's hard. I think what I would have people consider is, what is their intention in that relationship with that person, and what is an intention that they have that may be aligned with that person's intention in that moment? Is there a way that they can be combined? Is there a way that you can incorporate what they're asking you to do into an intention that you have? Or is there a larger intention that you have that's more important than your 3 or 4 tasks you've identified for that day? So like, for an example, one of the things that's really important for me is, and I'm very intentional about, is my family takes precedence over my business. And that sometimes has some real negative ramifications on the business. And I'm okay with it because my family is more important to me. And my relationship with my kids and my wife are more important. They trump the business. My brother's a business partner. My relationship with my brother trumps my relationship with my business partner in that role that he, that sphere that he fills. And so that has negative impacts on the business sometimes. And it serves me in my life and the business in the long run. But I think it just really boils down to prioritization and what are the intentions that you have, or the outcomes that you're looking to achieve in your life that are the, like, literally 1, 2, and 3 most important things, maybe 3, because my experience has been like anything outside of that, and sometimes it's like top 2 depending on what's going on, is like I can't really show up to more things than that in my life in a super intentional way, because there's not enough of me to give to those things in an intentional way. So it's prioritization. And when that person walks into the office, it's running that through a quick priority filter. And, it depends on what it is and who it is and how urgent it is and all the things, but just not responding with an immediate reaction of helping them out. It's running everything that comes in front of you through that filter to see if it makes the cut or not. And if it doesn't, you can still treat that person with respect and have them experience you in a powerful way. But it may look like not doing that thing. And it may look like doing that thing.
Yeah. So I think that maybe as I'm hearing what you're saying, I think it might be useful for the listeners to hear, if you're willing to share, like your intentions, so they might be able to delineate that between maybe tasks or to-dos or goals.
Yeah, for sure.
So they can hear it. Are you willing to share what your intentions are today?
Yeah, some of them for sure. I went through this exercise probably 2 or 3 months ago, just re-clarifying my intentions for my life and my what I'm committed to and what I want to create. And the number one thing out of everything on my list is creating time freedom. The number one thing. Because that allows me to serve the most important outcomes and intentions I have in my life. That one thing allows me to be with my family in a intentional way. I want to have daily time with my wife and kids that is high quality. I want to be able to support my wife in the hobbies and interests that she has. I want to hold my own hobbies and interests in high regard. I want to support my kids in hobbies and interests that they have and support their gifts, because they are gifted, every person in different ways. And so time freedom, that's the big one for me. And a lot of times that shows up as like financial freedom, but really what's behind the money, it is not about the money. I could care less about the money. It's the money allows me to spend my time with who I want to spend it with, when I want to spend time with them in the ways that I want to. So that's what's driving me. That's why I'm an entrepreneur and why I love small business and recurring revenue business, especially because it creates time freedom.
Yeah. So having a clear aim and intention that is specific, that obviously it's not only self-serving.
No.
Like the time freedom doesn't mean like, oh, now I'm going to just go to the movie theaters and be there all day. Like
right.
You could if that's like what you wanted that day, but like your life, right?
Yeah. For me, it's my family
Mm-hmm.
and my community and my church, giving back. Like I want to be able to serve people and be generous with people in ways that I wouldn't otherwise be able to be if I didn't have time freedom, if I had to be somewhere at a specific time. I mean, and I commit myself and I'm intentional with my time, but that's the underlying thing.
So I think one way that we could kind of ground this little portion out is, all right, so in the morning, you suggested to our listeners that they every morning set intentions. So not that you have to go through all of them. Are you willing to share maybe a couple of them that you had today? You have the time freedom as like your aim. Maybe that's the biggest priority.
Big thing. Yeah.
What about the day to day? Not that takes precedent over the high, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of my intentions was to just come here and be able to be with you, obviously, because I had committed to that. Outside of that, it's just accomplishing some tasks in the business that are aligned with the priorities in the business. You know, we go through a planning process every quarter and every year, and we identify the 3, maybe 4 top most important priorities in our business. And then I strive to align my work every day to those 3 or 4 priorities and minimize the amount of stuff that is not directly aligned with those. There's stuff that has to get done. I try to defer or to just have other people do those things. I try to delegate that as much as I can. And I still do some of it, but I'm trying to look at my time like it's worth $1,000 an hour, and every single task that comes in front of me, if it can't make it through that filter, I really need to question, is that something I should be spending my time on as the co-founder of this business, the CEO of this business? So it's high value things. A lot of the work I'm doing right now is just aligning and working with the team to help them be intentional and help them be aligned to what's important. Because if I can get, 5 or 10 people all rowing in the same direction, and all I'm doing is getting them to row in the same direction, that's a huge outcome 3 months from now. Mm-hmm. And that's a lot of what I spend my time on right now.
Yeah. So you bring up the thought of alignment very clearly to me, that you have an aim, you have a priority, you have an intention, a hierarchy of those, or something big. And then you're working, it sounds like to me, working on a daily basis to keep yourself on that path instead of getting down a rabbit hole or tangents or whatever as you said, kind of the flow of the river, wherever that takes you. It's like, no, that's where the river's going isn't where we're going. Yeah. We're going over here, or at least we're going to the left side of the river, or whatever it is. We're deflecting over here. What would you say to a person that is so steeped in all of those daily to-dos and mundane, taking care of all the customers? And I know that we already talked about AI, but like taking care of the customers, and then someone else needs this, and a team member needs that problem, and then you got to fix this software thing that is a plugin that we're using that takes you 6 hours longer than you thought, and all of a sudden that day is like, oh man, that's not in alignment. What would you say to that person?
Is it in alignment? I don't know. I mean, I think that's the question. There's things that come up, and we have to deal with them. Yeah. So deal with them, but be intentional in how you deal with them. Can you do that tomorrow? Can you do it tonight? Can you have someone else do it? Does it really need to be done today? It's shiny object syndrome for us as entrepreneurs and business owners. And there's endless shiny objects, and they all seem so compelling when they come onto our radar. So if you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're probably not doing the things that are going to create success. What are the things that you can be doing that nobody's doing, or that only you're thinking about, or that only are specific to your specific business or your specific audience that you serve? I don't know that I have an exact answer for that, but I just would, again, I'd run it through the filter. And I think the alignment, that's why the alignment is super important. If my team is rowing in the same direction as me and working on the same priorities, and something comes up for them that's a roadblock in the work they're doing, ultimately that should be pointing toward the same priorities that I'm working on. So as long as that's the case, it's always going to serve the priorities of the business and the priorities that I'm working on. And if it doesn't, then maybe we should stop doing it.
Yeah. I like that. There are times in my life where I want to do the unique, the creative, the what aligns for me. Because there are times where I'm like, maybe I'm all out here in la la land and everybody else has got something figured out, and I need to, not to conform, but maybe I should fall in line with on this principle.
Yeah.
It's not everything, but like,
Yeah.
there's something to be said about that. And
I
when you look
agree.
at other successful people like yourself or other colleagues, and you're like, well, they're all doing this. When it comes to like their accounting practices or certain things, it's like, well, I'm going to jump in with that instead of recreate the wheel over here and figure out how to do accounting by myself.
Yeah, I mean, mastermind groups are something that come to mind for me, and I'm involved in a couple. Is like, I'm surrounding myself with people that are smarter and more successful than me, and I'm learning from them. So I don't know that is, I think that serves intention. It's raising our awareness and understanding of what other people are doing to create success, and allowing us to make a choiceful decision about whether we want to do the same thing. I just think, again, it boils down to me, it is like, is that thing that they're doing aligned with the intentions that I have in my life and my business? There's a lot of people doing a lot of cool things and making a lot of money or having a lot of success that may not, just doing what they're doing may not serve me in my quest for happiness and peace in my life. It's different.
I love that, and I want to highlight that, is sometimes there are elements of success or elements that you want to borrow from someone or copy because of what they've done. But there is a risk in that, depending,
100%.
because sometimes you're giving up what actually matters to you
Yes.
to get what matters to them.
Correct.
There's been so many times in my life where I've looked at somebody, and there's certain people that I think that there are worth admiring in my life that are just good people. But there's sometimes like, oh man, I want to do what that guy's doing. And then I'm like, oh, he's not married.
Yeah.
He has no kids. Now, I'm not saying I'm better. No. I'm just saying like he has a different life situation where he can dive into things and like work 80 hours a day and all this stuff. I'm not even saying it's bad. It's totally good.
It's good for that person.
Yeah. I'm not saying he's better or I'm better. I'm not saying in all things are all equal. I'm just saying sometimes it's looking at the person saying, you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And when you look behind the scenes, it's like, oh man, this is a mess. That's a mess.
Yep.
These other things that in my life are not a mess or not a problem.
How do you define success? That's what it says at the top of my daily, not my life intentions, is like what success looks like to me. That's literally what I write at the top. And then I just have a bullet list of 15 to 20 things on there that define what success looks like for me. For example, I could choose to focus on becoming extremely wealthy and have my kids experience me as a total douchebag. Mm-hmm. And that's, for me, that would be a total failure. So when I'm 6 feet under in another, 50 years or 60 years, how I'm remembered by my kids and my family, and what they took from me, what they learned from me, and how they hold their relationship with me. That's what is the ultimate evidence of success for me, or thing that I'm after. And a part of that for me is doing well financially so that I can be with them in ways that are meaningful to them. I want to, like, this is going to sound maybe goofy to a lot of people, but in like another year or two from now, when my kids are old enough to start golfing, I want to take them out of school every Friday and go golfing with them. Like, and that's just something I want to do with my boys. And I know that I'm going to take so much flack for that from maybe even my wife. She says she supports it right now, but we'll see in a couple years. I mean, people are going to look at me and just, I can only imagine the things they're going to think about that. But I want to create that kind of a time and space with my boys. And it might not be every Friday. Maybe it's every other Friday, or one Friday a month. But I'm very clear that that's something I want to do with my boys. School's going to have to just deal with it. And whoever else is going to have to just deal with it, because I want to get out on the course with my boys and just be with them for big chunks of time and laugh and be together and create a memory with them that is something they did with their dad that was just something they could count on. And so that's like an intention. That's an example of an intention that I had that I have that may be very unpopular with a lot of people. But I believe that in like 20 or 30 years from now, that will be something that is seared deep into my sons' brains, and that they remember and hold on to as very dear time that we spent together.
Yeah. And holding those intentions, whether it be that specific or wanting the time freedom, wanting those things or having an intention set for those things doesn't mean you quit the business and you
Correct.
just play with your kids.
Correct.
And so that I think sometimes people get into a situation, or at least I can speak for myself, where I'm kind of like feeling guilty depending on what the scenario is. And it's like, sometimes it's, if you're out of alignment, then that's a problem. But and that's useful guilt, in my opinion. But there's other times where, no, I shouldn't feel guilty for the work that I'm putting in that is sacrificing a little bit of time here with this kid or that kid because of what it's going to produce. Now, if I'm sacrificing an extra hour of work time to watch another football game at work, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's a different outcome that I'm sacrificing. And so finding that balance of driving hard enough to that intention and staying committed to it in alignment with what we want is a challenge, but it also shouldn't be like a guilt-prone process that makes you feel like,
no,
if it's aligned, if you're being
if it's aligned. I mean, I have intentions with my business that are requiring a lot of hard work and focus right now, and that requires me to be creative. I still, right now, as I'm driving hard, I go golfing like once every other week at least, and that is during, you know, I try to get out in the morning, 7:30, but like it's chewing up the morning of my day. And so I've created like a schedule with my wife where I have one weeknight every week where I can do whatever I want. And I'm like, I'm released from my, you know, parental responsibilities that night. And she has a night as well. So that's how I'm able to go golfing every week, is I'm just shifting my time, and I'm shifting my work day back about 5 hours, and I'm golfing in the mornings during work, and I'm working a little later that night, but it's totally aligned. No one's annoyed about it. I'm happy to, like, I'm loving it. My wife is experiencing me powerfully, and like she does the same kind of stuff. Well, she does whatever she wants to do on her night, but like, it's just, that's not necessarily, that's not something I was doing 5 years ago. We've created together around what we want, and that's one of the things that that really, it really replenishes my soul right now. And is really important to me to go golfing on a regular basis. It just helps me reset. It helps me be more efficient and creative when I am working, and that's an example of one thing that is like, I think we just have to be creative and think outside the box and be intentional in our planning around it.
Yeah. I think sometimes too, well, I do believe that the notion is that the task fills the amount of space that's required, like that you allot to it.
Yes.
Not all the time. There are times when I'm like, all right, man, I want this thing to take an hour. And it's like 3 hours later, I'm like, brr. But typically, if you're like giving yourself this much time, I have a buddy that is right now training for his first Ironman.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm impressed with how I've had to fit in all these runs and rides and swims and things he's had to do, that now, while you got to flex your time, you golf in the morning and you work late, right? He's like, because of the extra time that I've had to do, and I'm sure there's costs that I'm not thinking about.
Yeah.
But he's also been able to fit other things into faster time frames because he's got to get the things done. So it's like, I only have a half an hour to get this thing done. So ChatGPT or what, like I'm going to figure this out quicker as opposed to, oh, I got an hour to do this. So you kind of mosey into it.
When you're motivated to get something done, I mean, it's pretty surprising how much faster you can get things done. One of my kids, or my daughters, my older daughters, I have 2 college-age daughters right now, and sometimes they'll say something like, oh, I can't do that. And I'll be like, what if I was to give you $100 right now to get it done by this time? Would you get it done then? And then it's just really interesting. Oh, actually, yeah, I guess I probably could figure that out. It's like, how often do we, kind of let ourselves off the hook? How much of a difference does it make when we're working towards something that's really important to us? $100 for my daughter, that's like a trip to Sephora. That's a big deal. And so, yeah, I love what you said about that. I agree. And I'm a big fan of Elon Musk. And like, I remember reading an article one day about how he manages his time. Like, he's running Tesla, SpaceX. Now he's heading up the Doge. Like, how does it, I don't know how many companies this guy's running. How does he do it all? And like, the dude's just he's just cutthroat with his time. He manages I think it's in 5-minute increments, or it might be 10 or 15-minute increments, but I think it's 5-minute increments.
That's what you showed me a while
back. His daily calendar's planned in 5-minute increments. And like, the meetings that he has in his companies can't be longer than 15 minutes when he's getting together with a team or a department. It's like that, dude, you got to show up.
You got a question
with an intention, man, to get anything out of that meeting and prepared.
Yeah. You impressed a few thoughts that I hadn't had ever before. I know that when I have a vacation or I'm going snowboarding or I'm doing something fun, like, man, that day, I get through a bunch of stuff because I got to get out and get on the plane or whatever it is.
Yes.
It'd be kind of fun in life. And I love how you did that with your daughters. If I gave you $100 and you had, maybe you have 30 minutes to do this thing, could you do it?
Yeah.
I was thinking of scenarios in my life that someone asked me, hey, I need an answer on this thing. I'm like, I don't know if I have an answer on that thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, and had they said, dude, if I give you $1,000 to give me an answer next 20 minutes, could you do it? I'm like, probably good. Yeah. But that's a really impressive thought that I'm going to put down into my intentions. Like, during the day, if I had to get this done in 30 minutes and I'd grant myself a trip or $1,000 and whether you can or can't, it's still the notion of like, oh, let's go after that. That's maybe a trick mind or a little bit of a motivator, but it's still interesting.
And I think the trick is like, how can you do that authentically? Like, what are you really after? And how can you check in with that every day? I printed off my what success looks like to me list. And I printed it out on a, I don't know, whatever size laminated sheet of paper at Staples or wherever it was. And it is hanging up right next to my desk. And every day when I come into my office in the morning, I look at that and I read through pieces of it. I skim it. I check in with it. Because that's what that is for me. This is why I'm showing up today. It's not to get these priorities done to increase our recurring revenue by X% this quarter. That's a means to an end.
Yeah.
The thing that I'm after is creating my business to be in a place and running and operating in a way that I'm free on a daily basis to spend as much or as little time in my business as I want, and can go golfing with my boys on Friday morning, or go grab lunch with my daughter who lives a few miles away, chat with my wife about something going on for her, or whatever it might be. That's what I'm after. And that's what motivates me. And that's why I printed that off, because I want to remind myself every day of that prize for me that really motivates me to be in my top performance mode every day.
That's cool. If you don't mind, I'm going to share something I learned from a previous guest around lists, because I similarly have lined out. I love New Year. It just is a fresh move. Yeah, nothing's stale. Everything's new. And so it feels fun for 10 months.
So you're like checking in at the end of the year.
It's like, hey, no. But one of our previous guests talks about how our subconscious doesn't read words. And, I've heard a million things about vision boards and whatnot. But the catalyst for me is like understanding why. Everybody's like, oh, do a vision board. But now I'm like, oh, it's because the subconscious doesn't read words. It sees things.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So,
envisioning it.
Yeah. Have those words be pictures in your mind, or pictures on the page, is the connection to your subconscious.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I agree. And I believe that when you say something, so words, I remember how you exactly said it, but our subconscious doesn't read words. But our subconscious takes cues from our brain. Yeah. And our brain reads words. And our mouth speaks words.
Yeah.
And like, language is powerful. So if you speak your intentions or write down your intentions, I agree with that person, and that's super wise. And that's how you get things locked into your subconscious, is through language and words and repetition and visualization. The repetition is like super powerful. And that's how we get it kind of locked into our subconscious minds, I think, to where it's really operating in us without us having to think so much about it.
Yeah. I agree. I have worked so diligently in my life, and still am not perfection in this state, but the words matter. The words create, but words are the precursor to words or thoughts. Like there's nothing that comes out of my mouth that I haven't thought of ever. Yeah. I've always thought it, generally many times, especially if it comes out of my mouth. Yeah.
What you think about constantly is who you become. There's a lot of quotes out there around that.
We should flash them all.
Another one I've heard is like, thoughts become words, become actions, and actions become your habits, and habits become your
behaviors,
your character. Or something like that. It's all the same principle. So be a guardian and a caretaker of the garden that is in, your mind, and the thoughts that are floating around in there.
Yeah.
Being aware of them.
So how do you stay excited about these things? Because I'm like thinking about it as I'm saying the question. I shouldn't answer my own question. How do you stay motivated on these things? You set this vision, you work to align yourself on it. You have some of these mechanisms we've talked about to help keep you, but how do you stay committed and excited about that long-term thing, especially when you're not maybe seeing the tomorrow's evidence of this grandiose vision?
Yeah, it has to be real today too. This is something I'm still working on, and everyone's like, I think all of us are still working on, probably. But like, it can't be something that's out there. If I'm working every day, grinding to get something that's out there in the future, I'm just going to burn out, man. Mm-hmm. How can you live it right now? And how can you experience that right now? How can you be that right now? And it may not be exactly the way you want it to be in a few years from now, but how can you be experiencing your day to day in a way that's aligned with your intentions. Like for me, time freedom. And so what am I doing right now every day to have more time freedom and experience more time freedom and taste what fills me up? And so I've mentioned to you some of those things. Like for me, golf is one of them. That's weird as it sounds. Spending quality time with my kids every day. I'm intentional about that. So, you know, we've got to enjoy and be in things and do things that are like filling us up and allowing us to experience our day-to-day lives in a way that we can be excited about. If you can't wake up in the morning and be excited about what your day looks like, that may be a sign to you that like what you're doing isn't aligned with your intentions. You know, that's not to say like we shouldn't do things that are hard sometimes. Like, I was just talking to my college daughter last night who's playing in a Division I lacrosse program where like she has to wake up every day at 5:15 a.m. to hit the gym, hit the weights, and a 2-hour practice after that, and then go to her class. Like she's grinding, man, but she loves it. And that's why I'm confident she's going to continue to do well, because like it's hard. And like 95% of the population, they might be in that situation, be like, I'm out of here. Eject. This is, but she loves it. So what does that need to look like for you as a person, for you to be just excited about waking up every day? Like, I love what I do. I love what I do right now. And I'm doing things that are hard. And I'm juggling a lot of things that are challenging. But like, I love it. I love what I'm doing. I wake up every day excited. I don't wake up like, I have to do this stuff today. And I think that's the key. It wasn't hard for me to get here, and I'm not even where I want to be. But I wake up every day excited about what I'm doing. And I'm like, I'm full of energy, and I'm doing things to try to be healthy and get sleep that keep me in tip-top shape, but I'm excited about it. And I think that makes all the difference. Finding something to do that you love doing, and then it just doesn't feel as much like it's hard or like it's work.
Yeah. I really love what you've said. When it's out there, so I think it's sound advice for this, out there, it's not here. And so therefore you never reach it. And I was thinking like of your daughter. Let's just say her lacrosse team had one game in a year from now. No games in between now and then.
Yeah.
And that dictates the entire season. Like, it would be so hard, but like you play, you practice. Yeah. I get there's off season and on season. I know there's time in between, but during season, it's like you work, play, and then you work a few more days and you play and you work a few more days. So there's like, there's the now, there's the, I'm doing this and we're seeing if I'm working.
Yeah.
If I need to tweak
and they have a ton of fun, dude. I think the program she's in and does an incredible job of just, they have so much fun, but they work their tails off. But like, she's having so much fun. And like, to your point, she's having fun right now. Like, they haven't been in season. She's been putting 20 hours of lacrosse practice in a week and another, who knows, in the gym for months at this point, all through the fall semester. And like, you look at that and you're like, they're grinding, man. And they are, but they're having so much fun. And like, those other young women that she's playing with are like sisters to her. And like, she loves it every day. She's happy and excited to wake up. Like, she's been back home for a month and she's like chomping at the bit to get out of the house and back into her, old dorm with like sometimes cold water and, like, she just loves it. She's loving it.
So that's really what we should, at least one of the things you could take away as a listener is to find that big thing, have the intention, align your efforts, but then bring that intention to today.
Yeah.
And bring that in and then do something that either motivates you, excites you,
Yeah.
makes you feel a level of that. And that's the difference between sometimes a goal is outcome based. It's like,
Yeah.
I will have this much money, or I will go on this
Correct.
cruise, or whatever it is. Simple examples. But you can't necessarily take those things and put them into today. Like,
Right.
you're not like, oh, I'm going to make $1 million today.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult. But if you have an intention to create something, to be something, to accomplish something, you can make some of that, you can give a portion of that to yourself
Yeah,
today.
absolutely.
And that's a critical piece of how you can keep that fire and accomplish things that really matter. And that, like you said, it's kind of like, it's a means. It's like, naturally, I'm going to do that thing.
Yeah.
I'm naturally going to do that because it's on the way to my intention.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I'm going to have to do that. And yeah, I'm going to have to do that thing. But it's far easier to do those things when you're tasting it.
Yeah, you're tasting it and you're allowing yourself to experience what fills you up in your intention. Like that,
And outcomes matter.
Outcomes matter.
Outcomes matter. I'm not saying
Yes.
like, independent, but we also recognize in life that we don't control all outcomes. There are some outcomes
don't.
we can, but there are many of them we don't. And so I can control my effort and the way that I bring in and become and who I am and who I'm touching and how I'm making that happen. And the outcome will be what it is. And if you're on the path to your intention, it's going to be what it needs to be.
Yeah. Who do I want to be 5 years from now? How can I be that right now?
Yeah. Well, I think if you don't do that, if you don't think who I want to be in 5 years, 50 years, you said when you're in the grave, if you don't think about some of that, if you don't contemplate that some of the time, then you're just going to be whatever is convenient.
You're riding on the tube down the river and you're going wherever it's taking you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which may not serve what you really want.
But in addition, though, there's always these things of like when you meet success or when you have the right out, because there are opportunities.
I'll be happy when.
Yeah, but there are opportunities that come when you're ready. Like the magic can happen. Don't get me wrong.
100%.
But you're only going to be more of what you already are.
Yes.
Not that you can't improve, but if you're not generous, you're not going to be generous once you have money. If you're not
100%.
If you don't value time freedom, you're not going to value time freedom when it's
just an amplifier.
Yeah, it's going to be more bigger and bigger messes and bigger successes of who you are.
Yeah. I think that's a great thing to challenge ourselves on regularly is like, if you ever catch yourself, and I catch myself in this thought more than I'd like to admit. Well, when this is true, then I'll show up this way, or I'll do this, or I'll be with this person.
It's hard though.
I don't.
It doesn't have to be, but I experienced it as difficult.
I think we all do experience that. And I think that's a good opportunity to challenge our thinking and challenge ourselves to really stop making excuses and just be who you want yourself to be in the future. The only way you're going to be that person in the future is to start being that person now. And, we change, we grow, we whatever, but that's an intention to be who you want to be. And, certain things don't have to be true in order for you to be the person you want to be. That's fully in your control. Big Stephen Covey 5 Habits fan, your sphere of influence or whatever he calls it, like whatever's in your sphere of control, like that's all you. And how you choose to be and how you choose to show up is there doesn't have to be anything that's true for you to decide to do that and be that way right now. Yeah.
Wise words. Kyle, it's been a pleasure having you here.
I love it,
so
man.
much more we could go into. And we
didn't even talk about the 74 things I thought we were going to talk about, but this was fun. It went in an unexpected direction.
Yeah. Kyle, it's been a joy to have you. And I'm sure with comments and feedback from audience, we'll have you back to be able to finish some of those 74 things that were on your mind before you showed up.
All right, buddy. It's good catching up with you.
Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for joining us on The Intentional Way. I'm Bryan Hatch, and it's been a true privilege to share this time with you. If today's episode has inspired you in any way, shape, or form, please subscribe, follow, and download our episodes. Your support not only helps us grow, it also enables us to bring more insightful conversations and exceptional guests right to you. Living intentionally begins with a single step, yours. So let's make the most of it. Until next time, seek intention by being completely present.